This video is essentially sponsored by our Patreon members, and this is one of the places we like to get our topics from. So, thank you to you guys for bringing this one to our attention. So one of them wanted to know: is it worth it to sell Dungeons and Dragons in a hobby shop? Like, I don't know if they were asking because they're like thinking of opening a hobby store one day, or they're just generally kind of curious about, how it sells compared to other things, etc., etc. So that's something we're going to attempt to answer in this video. I'm Chris. This is Jay. Welcome back to another Lords of War video. Thank you for tuning in. What do you think, Jay? Has it been worth it? Maybe we should talk first about our evolution of carrying it, like how we started and where we are now.
Didn't we always have it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I should maybe be more specific. I said evolution.
You said evolution. We start with just like
how has it changed over the years? Like have we
Okay, that's fair.
Has it stayed the same? First of all, good point, Jace. We did start with it in the shop.
Yeah.
We always had it since day one, and it's funny that we did because like neither of us are D&D people.
No.
So I'll put that out there right away. Jay and I are not role players, and when people ask me why, I'm like, I didn't know I had time for more hobbies. Like that's generally my answer is like I've just always been more fascinated with the modeling and painting.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of when you're young and there's a fork in the road. Just one leads to RPGs, the other leads to miniatures. I don't know.
And then there's these like hybrid people. These
sure. Very rare.
They are rare that they do both hobbies, but they exist.
So, well.
So why did you think it was important to have on the shelf? I guess when we opened.
Well, okay, sure. It think about it is like it does well. It is kind of it's weird to have a game store without D&D. I don't know. It's like it's just logically. I
guess there is sort of like a cultural thing.
There would be a bizarre thing not to carry it, because obviously it's a phenomenon. I don't know. I can't really think of too many reasons not to. But yeah, I think at the time it was like a no-brainer. I don't know. I didn't really overthink it. I was like, there's a few. I guess there was a few small factors which maybe don't matter that much today. At the time, 5th Ed was new. Yeah. So, and it had a lot of hype behind it, or garnered a lot of like praise as it was coming out, because people, I guess 4th wasn't, again, this is how little we know. I know 4th wasn't as exciting, or it was a bit of a split.
From my understanding, it was a bit more board gamey.
It was board gamey.
And less just about the role playing.
Yeah. So there was that. I like that it is a relatively small footprint, and it helps draw people in. Like, not... I know when you open a hobby store or game store, it's like, these are some things we learned about, like, because their store was very catch-all at the beginning. We had, like, lots of board games. We had lots of Magic. We had D&D. We had all the miniature games. It was a bit of everything. But, like, over time, we've, like, moved off of certain things that we're not as good at and whatever. But D&D stuck around. Probably because it's just reliable. It is easy to stock. The only apprehension I had was, like, are people going to buy this considering the price discrepancy between what we can sell it for based on, or what we buy it for, and then what we sell it for, because they're very expensive. People are like, this book is,
they're like $60 book, $70 book.
$60 to $70 Canadian. And you're like, yeah, well, it cost me like $35 to $41 a book. Like, it's not like, and we don't sell that many of them. So yeah, Amazon, they'll be like, Amazon has a book for $49.99. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. I'm not going to put it on the shelf to make $5 or whatever, like after fees and things like that. It's just nonsense. So, but we sell a good amount of them, and then it slowly turned into a D&D zone. Like, we have the dice, and we have the pre-primed figures, and we've added other ancillary items. So yeah, it's a good pillar to have.
It's kind of shown to, like, I've learned like, just by carrying it from day one, like in 10 years or whatever, we've learned a lot about, like, what those people that come in for D&D are actually looking for. I think that because neither of us were consumers of that product, it took us a while to get there, right? But, like, with the miniature stuff, we always had a good sense of, like, well, we like all these paints, we like all this stuff. There's got to be people out there like us, and we were mostly right about that. But with D&D, it was a bit more trial and error, I guess, trying things and seeing what people liked, and actually talking to people. And
it is a difficult customer base to gauge because
definitely.
it is like you can put them all in the category like these are all D&D people, but then it's like sliced into all these pieces because you have like people that just play, people that DM, people that do both, and then within there you have players that are like, well, you know, a part of the appeal of D&D is like it's very just like imagination driven. It doesn't require a lot of extra stuff. You can literally you can play it with nothing. You can like just have a dice and everything can be done in thin air.
Yeah.
So, and this is not to like, I'm not here to like deride or negatively talk about D&D players, but I found from our experiences, you have people that are mostly players that don't really need they don't like really buy many books. They might buy a player's guide. Even then they might just share one.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And so I'm calling them cheap, but anyway, they're looking for those people tend to be looking for more of the dice and the like little accessories to personalize their experience. Maybe it's a miniature or a figure or a fun little bag to keep all their stuff or little knickknacks and things. And then you have the other end of the spectrum is usually the dungeon master who buys everything.
So these are the people you actually are selling to.
These are the people
you're selling to, right?
Like you want to attract
people that are running games, right?
And so they're buying the different modules and they're buying fancy dice and D&D is another product that does surprisingly well at Christmas time because people are always like everyone knows someone in their life that is a D&D player and they want to get something fun and interesting. So you know that's where the special that we have like gemstone dice and you know it's like literally $100 set of dice and
we've got a buddy of ours, Kevin, who
makes
like
dice trays,
hand makes dice trays out of wood, which is really cool.
Exotic woods and things. Yeah, so it's a very weird product in that like I mean the books are kind of like always there and they kind of continue. The starter set is also very good. They've made several. And Wizards of the Coast or whoever, like they've been good at like making little updates and new character sheet packages and these little things that every player or dungeon master or whatever that would want. It was something that took us a while to figure out. I think it's actually probably simpler than we think it is. It's probably like just carry lots of D&D-esque things.
I think
a bit of a variety wall and.
I think the problem for us in the beginning is we didn't really appreciate. I think we saw like most of the customers coming in as players, and we just thought like, okay, there's not much money to be made here, and that was a big mistake, I think.
Yeah.
But like, understanding the difference between like someone who just plays it because like it's something to do and someone does all the work for them.
Yeah.
So they just get like a social experience with their friends each week, and like the game master or dungeon master who is doing it literally as a hobby. Like that's their hobby is Dungeons and Dragons, and so they understand that hobbies cost money, so they're willing to spend money on books, they're willing to spend money on models, willing to spend money on paint sometimes, and all the accessories and things to do it, and. Realizing that like if we expanded our offerings for those people, we could tap a lot more into that money, and then also understanding that players like there's a couple little things that they will buy, like you said before, like dice, maybe a player's handbook, whatever, maybe an accessory pack for their specific character, and trying to find more of those things so we can just like sell to everyone essentially. So I think like the general rule is like you can't have too many dice to sell in your store.
No, that is...
At least we haven't hit that number yet.
We need to buy more. You actually need to order more dice.
More dice,
yeah. The dice is one of those crazy items. Whether it's for Warhammer or D&D, sometimes you can never have enough dice. Like, if I had to pick a thing that I wish we did better, more of in the early days, was just stocking a crap load of dice.
Like more than seems reasonable.
Like yeah. Like hundreds of tins of dice.
Like you get the order and you're like, how is this? Like, why are we doing this?
And it's like Yeah, because like a few $1,000 could literally get you like 300-400 things of dice. Yeah, and you're like, you're like, this is a lot.
How is this going to sell?
It sells.
It just churns through. It's crazy. Yeah,
you know, some of our most popular dice, it's like easily $25 a set for a 7-piece set. They're very nice. They have like fun things inside them,
resin or whatever.
And they're like clear and multiple color. Like the dice companies out there are killing it.
They're killing it. They're making
great
bank,
dice
for sure.
People cannot get enough. People will come back and buy more. And they already have too many, and they'll buy more. So the other stuff is, I will say, on the other side, there is definitely there's definitely some traps and pitfalls that you can be there's certain little accessories and bits that you might be like, oh, this is cool. Why wouldn't they like? And it doesn't like do well, and you don't know why, because you're like, it doesn't make sense. So you can definitely dice and the books are pretty safe, but like, you know, for example, I'm fine with owning. It's a bit of a heavy bag. Well, it'll sell through over eventually, but like I think we probably went overboard on the there was like the new Pathfinder books or something we got.
Oh yeah.
So there was a minute where like D&D people were like, I hate you, WotC, because they're fudging the third party licensing thing and really upsetting a lot of people, and people were going in the full like, we're gonna boycott, we're gonna play the competitors game, which is Pathfinder by Paizo or whatever, and people were like, God, we want these books, and they had these beautiful new like sketch art. It's like 2. Or like I don't know, it was 2.5 or whatever they made was, and yeah, those were books that we probably have like 5-10 copies too many or something, and it's like you can definitely, and that's like not even a bad product. Like, that is like Pathfinder is like a very solid, like, it's like a little more classic D&D from like
it's like 3rd edition or 3.5.
so if you're if you're probably like 35 plus, you might like that more because that's how you used to play when you were younger, that type of thing. And that's just a small example. It could be other dumb things. It could be other accessories or card packs or something you thought would be just do so well because you thought it was cool, and you ordered 100 of them, and then they don't move because it turns out like D&D has a lot of very personal. People are very like, you need a lot of variety, but also like
you don't want to go
careful.
Deep. Yeah, you got to be careful about going
except
deep,
for dice.
Deep, yeah, dice.
Dice is safe.
Careful about going deep on any sort of accessories because like it's a very personal thing. I think. What you said. I tend to agree with that. Yeah,
it has its things like any product, but I think there's just such a and there's like so many people making stuff for D&D, like
even with the models, right? Like, you got to be careful with that. Like, it's why like we don't try to go out of our way to stock too many lines of D&D models, because like ultimately you get two types of customers with those. You get one customer that's like, I'm just looking for a rogue.
Right.
I'll take whatever you got.
Yeah.
Great. I love you guys.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Or you get the other person who's like, I need a rogue. It has to be like this.
Yes.
And they have to be holding the sword in this position.
Yes.
And so like, yeah, it's like good luck, right? Like a shop like ours just can't fulfill that need for that person. So don't try, I guess, would be.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a dangerous place to go to try to like fulfill that very specific like need for somebody, I think.
You have companies like Hero Forge that exist to do
there's
that.
3D printers for
3D printing
right?
for that. Yeah, I suppose someone's going to clip this or whatever, that I suppose there's some business case for some, if you're going to do any printing service, it might work well for D&D people. Maybe they might be willing to pay up front and wait, a day or two or whatever it takes to print a figure, and then maybe they might pay a bit to get exactly what they want. Maybe. But even then, you got to decide whether it's worth the time and what you got to sell the figure for, because if you're still only selling it for $10, it's not worth it, in my opinion.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. The other thing that we struggled with at first, although we still somewhat struggle with it, but we do have some regular is even and maybe this is because we're not a cafe. Maybe it works better in cafes, but monetizing the play.
Yeah.
Is not always easy.
That's a big thing for sure. Like, you can tap into, like, one of the things we realized over the years was like there's just people always looking for games. Maybe they don't have any personal friends that do D&D, or they're new and they want to get into it. It took us a long time to get to the place where we're like, oh, can we actually like fill this niche for people? And to your point, like, it is really complicated because you need competent people to run the games.
Yep.
You usually should like compensate them in some way if you can. Sometimes you get people that just love doing it, so you're lucky. Okay, like, oh, that's great, amazing. But then it's just like keeping a dependable schedule, and how do you organize it? How do you monetize it in a way that's actually like going to generate a little bit of revenue for you? I think the healthiest thing I've seen about it is if you have those programs running consistently, and you always have some new people coming in and playing in them, inevitably, like, people find friends, and then like all these offshoots of games start.
Yep.
And while that means that they're not coming back necessarily and playing in your store, usually you keep them as a customer long term, and they'll actually come in to pick up their books from you and like support you in that way. So it's pretty cool, I think. Like,
yeah, you're trying to Really, what you're trying to do is cultivate a pool of dungeon masters.
Yes. That's That's really what you're trying
will
to do.
then use you as their main source of getting all the stuff they need.
It's almost like we're a business.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Trying to sell things.
Yeah, it is. It is something that was a little bit challenging. Now, once we got that engine, so something that what we did. We got our trade secret's not really a secret. Is in our case, it was hiring someone that was like fantastic at doing it.
Yeah.
And his job wasn't just like he was a part timer, so he did everything here as well, like selling miniatures and everything, and paints and etc. But yeah, it wasn't like I didn't just hire a random like this person is like a D&D veteran, knows how to, and it was a massive difference between that and just. It's tough because you do get like kids, you get different ages and groups, and you need someone who can kind of like deal with that, what that comes with.
Well, and this is where like you got to be really careful.
Yeah.
Depending, obviously this is more of a like you should probably look into this a little bit more. But like if you're running a program and you're having kids get into it, you probably want to do background checks on people that are running activities, even if it's a volunteer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
you got to keep your eye on it.
Just be careful, right?
Yeah,
It's not worth.
Now, once we got like healthy pools of players, so something that I don't know. This doesn't happen very often, but kind of this year was a big year for D&D because they had their 2024 books. So I don't know how often they're going to do this. So it was about a decade. Right? It was about a decade. Yeah, so they did. So this is essentially them going back 10 years and looking at all the things that little add-ons and improvements and probably erratas that they've done, and maybe taken some of the player feedback and basically reissued a new updated. So think of it as like a 0.5 player's guide, dungeon master guide, and monster manual. And these things have turned into reliable. Well, even the modules do well too. Some of them, yeah. You're even our store, like you're moving 30-40 copies of these books pretty easily. People just rolling in and they come and get it.
When you think, especially like the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master Guide, like these are like must-have things. And with that being said, like I know people are asking specifically like how people are adopting the 2024 book, because like you said earlier in the video, and this is ultimately true, you don't even need books at all to do this. Yeah. Right? But if you have books already, no one is coming to your house and taking those old books away from you and saying, time to get the new one. Right? Like, so it's a conscious choice to update. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and lots of people play their own brews and rules or use old rule sets or whatever. A lot of people just collect the books too. Like we have lots of customers that are just like, they love having their library of D&D and different RPG books. Well, and just like reading and digesting. Completely not off topic, but like something we didn't mention, which is like super cool and interesting that they've probably done for about 5 years now, is those is the limited edition hobby store covers. Yeah, which is like the best thing Wizards has probably done for us. Yeah, it's the identical book with a fancy cover, and it doesn't cost extra. It's the same price. So the first wave or whatever of books is that, and then everything forward has a standard cover, and it's great because people love getting them, and they know the hobby stores are getting them, so they want to support us and come and get them, put their names down. And they're beautiful books. They're beautiful books. Yeah, the covers are awesome. Artwork's great. Yeah. So I mean, also COVID times and Stranger Things and all. D&D's massive right now. Like you kind of just set it and you'll do all right. Just if you're gonna run programs, get the right staff, and you can charge a bit for it. We charge a little bit, and it works. You should charge for it. People are happy to pay a little for like an evening of fun if you do it right. And like I said, it more than anything else, it tends to it does a really good job of organically doing its own thing too. And if people want to then rent tables or book times, you can roll that in. But the events, though, I will say they're not huge. The events themselves aren't super lucrative. So it's a means to an end. I think. So I wouldn't this is where I would. You depends on how you're
business is laid out, and maybe if you have like cafe style or what, like you definitely have D&D night. But I wouldn't, for the amount of bodies and tables it uses, it doesn't generate a ton of revenue. Plus you have to have like staff on hand and pay the staff. So like you do have to be careful with how you do that. I'm sure some places do really well, but
for sure,
I don't know if it could be like maybe once a week would be enough. I don't know. But yeah, it's can't go wrong. Yeah, it's a good product.
Yeah, and I think like you probably picked up on this. The two guys that don't do it are selling it successfully.
Yeah,
and I think that says a lot about the brand and a lot about the product, that like it can do that. Like how many things in a hobby store can you just put on the shelf and not actively talk about it?
And even survive its own crazy scandals and people. It is. It goes to show how powerful the product is. Like I said, considering you don't need anything to.
It's funny how much like people don't realize how online those things are. When like you're like in the shop and you're just like selling D&D books regularly. Yeah, you're like, I don't think anybody really cares. Right. Like anyone who like buys books cares about the scandal stuff. They're just like they're just enjoying their hobby, buying the books they want, and they're not really like online thinking about that stuff. Some of those like scandal things are like purely online. Yeah. It's just kind of funny how like there's this huge separation sometimes. What's the saying? Touch grass. Go outside. Yes. It might not be the same. Well, I think we probably answered that question pretty thoroughly. I hope our Patreon members appreciated that answer, and we appreciate the questions you guys submit through there. If you have burning questions of your own that you need us to tackle for some reason, join us on Patreon. You can join for as little as I think $3 a month or something like that. We call that the tip jar, and we appreciate your support through there, and we try to have more involved conversations with our Patreon members through that medium. So until next time, guys, thank you for watching. Take care.
Bye.